What's good?
Hey, how are you?
All right, doing great. How about yourself?
I'm great. Well, I want to learn about your story. Give us the background. What got you to say, you know what, I need to do something for my community and I need to do it in this way with Progress Pushers?
So, I always say, I'm an example of the school to prison pipeline. I left school at the age of 16, went to go commit a home invasion robbery. 17 years old, I was on the run. 18 years old, I was the youngest person at Walla Walla in 2003. Serving a 14-year sentence that I ended up serving 12 and a half years on, right? And so while in prison, because I grew up in prison, right? Every single day of my 20s gone. And so initially, I took with me the same negative behaviors, beliefs, and experiences that brought me there in the first place. And then it was in 2009, gang involved. I met a brother who was leading the Black Prisoners Caucus at Monroe, right? Kamani Carter, shout out to him. And we was having our meetings on the yard. And he told me, he said, any leader can lead their people towards negativity, but it takes, while still being surrounded around that negativity, but it takes a special type of leader to lead your people towards positivity while still being engulfed around that negativity. And that really did something to me. That was like an aha moment for me, right? And so shout out to the Black Prisoners Caucus at Monroe, positive group that I've been around since 72, really helped building young brothers in prison. And so that really did something to my soul, to my spirit, to my heart, right? And so the very next meeting on the yard, we began to do some things differently, getting some brothers connected with job opportunities that's getting ready to get out, teaching them how to write their resumes, really preparing them for their release, right? And so for me, it was the brothers in prison, some of which who still haven't came home and ain't coming home, according to their sentences, who breathed life into me that I wish I would have been able to receive earlier on. So that was the start of it for me. And so that led to me getting released in 2015 at the age of 31. And, I hit the ground running, right? At that point, I had already been bit by the bug, right? I wanted to do something for my community. It was women like Mary Flowers, right, who came up to the prison and was, again, breathing life. She said, we need you guys in the community, right? And so I wanted to be a part of the construction opposed to the destruction of the community. And so I wanted to do something to more than just giving back, right? I wanted to breathe life how life was breathed into me, right? And so I started working for Urban League for about 3 years, started off as outreach. Shout out to Augustine Cedar, Michelle Merriweather, Pamela Banks. But they believed in me, right? And so put me in position to be outreach. And then I ended up getting, promoted. And then it came to a point where I realized they wasn't focusing at that time really on the youth as much as I would have wanted to. And so 2018, I started Progress Pushers. And in 2019, I jumped off the ledge and, began to facilitate groups all over the county. We was going to Green Hill, Chehalis and Green Hill. We was South End, the highway further away. We were everywhere, right? Really just teaching. And so I created a curriculum through our organization up under the Credible Messenger model. Mm-hmm. And so we got 4 phases of curriculum: life skills, job readiness, leadership development, and civic engagement. And so we're talking about the conversations that's not being talked about at home. We're talking about the conversations that are not being talked about at school, right? When we talk about generational curses, vices and values, who are you when you look in the mirror, right? The importance of forgiveness, right? And so dealing with self, getting self right before you can be right for anything or anyone else, right? So that's
this is, I'm telling you, I am so excited that folks like you are not just using your brilliance for your own, like, oh, for my family, my wealth, my this and that. It is so right. And I just shout out to Mary Flowers, man. Like, when you mentioned the queen, that is Mom Mary. And
Janet Preston.
Yeah, Janet Preston. Come on. I mean, these are some folks who in community do it without needing the recognition. But the fact that we know what they're holding and the history that they bring to really connect folks like you back to community is so key. And there's so many other names we can mention, I'm sure,
absolutely.
but it's just great to know that, you said, I have something to give to these young folks, and that you made it very specific in terms of your focus. And it is, this is so necessary, because as we think about dismantling the ideology around violent action, it is something that is like, it permeates in the mind, it starts in the mind. And so we need folks like you out here talking to these youth. What are some of the ways that you've been building up Progress Pushers to really include community on your journey?
So, first of all, shout out to my team. Obviously Progress Pushers wouldn't be what it is without our team. We're a small team with a huge impact. And so some of the things that we've been doing, we've been trying to be really innovative, right? And so what that looks like is, we established a music group, right, in Georgetown, connected with Mob Studios. And so we're putting together a Progress Pushers music album for our young folks to express themselves in a positive manner, right? Being intentional and mindful about the messages that they're receiving, so it don't get trapped in your subconscious and it get played out in your actions, right? And so we're putting out, an album. We also got a music group at Rainier Valley Leadership Academy in the South End. In addition to that, again, we're at Green Hill. We're looking forward to getting back into Green Hill to teach those young brothers once again about these different topics that really they need to understand more about self, right? They need to understand more about their connection to the community. But we also take our youth to political forums, right? We're going to school board meetings. We're going to city hall meetings, right? And we're teaching them the importance of understanding politics and policies, laws that affect your life, right? And so we can't continue to complain about these situations without actually being able to understand them and then create solutions for them, right? And so in addition to that, we got our community events, March 25th, 1 to 4, Del Ridge Community Center. We'll be at we'll be there. We have we do an event every quarter, every 3 months, and so this event is going to be on leadership development. And so we got a few of our young people to host the event this time. And so we're also up under the regional peacekeepers. Shout out to Community Passageways and the other wonderful organizations doing their thing. And so we got some young brothers who's a part of that regional peacekeepers who's been impacted by gun violence, who's going to be leading this this event on leadership, right? The importance of it. What does your leadership look like? How is that being displayed in your life, right? And so, in addition to the events, we have our groups. And so we're in communities, we're in schools, we're in juvenile institutions, really just trying to, make a wave and again, breathe life and uplift and empower and to create self-sustainability in the lives of these young folks who largely society has given up on. Yeah.
Well, it also does something to them too, to know that folks like yourselves are really pouring into them and really dedicating your energy and talent to say, look, I know because I've been there, right? Absolutely. And there's just something really special about that, because I think that kind of perspective really permeates a young person's mentality, and that's so key. I'm always talking about shifting the mind, elevating the mind, Absolutely. Collective elevation of consciousness, Absolutely. And that's something that we need so much more in our community. So shout out to you and all of the other amazing organizations like Community Passageways, Choose 180, Absolutely. Creative Justice. I have a question, because I have a son.
Project.
Yeah, there's so many, right? And I love that, because we need them all. We need you all out here. Like it's a huge issue. But I have a question, because my son is 17. He listens to music that is not conducive to positive lifestyle.
Right.
I talk to him about his music all the time, but he's also one of those kids who gets good grades. He hasn't been in trouble like that with the system or anything like that. So I think that there's young people out here that oftentimes aren't impacted by organizations like yours. And I'm just thinking about from a personal perspective, I need my son to be getting some of those lessons
Right.
too. I mean, how can we be intentional about bringing those kinds of kids in who maybe they are good students, they don't have any, you know, gang related issues or activities in their lives, or street style issues in their lives, whether it's gangs or not. But you know, those young people also need to be in the guidance of what y'all are creating.
So our groups are open, right? We got a no eject reject policy. We don't turn nobody away because we've created safe spaces, right? And we don't want to be that organization that says, actually, this isn't for you, this is only specifically for these guys, and then they go away and something happens, right? And so, but in order to get enrolled into our one-on-one service, that is specific, right? Because we do mentor those youth and young adults who are most marginalized, who are most oppressed, right? Who mostly don't receive certain services and resources. So we do focus about 85% on those who have been impacted by the injustice system. And then the other 15% is a focus on those who, according to society standards, will become impacted at some point in time. But and that's for the one-on-one enrollments, right? Being connected to a navigator. But our groups are open, right? And so, you know, when we launch our music groups, like someone like your son definitely is welcome to come, you know, express his brilliance on the mic. He might make the album, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I just had to ask because as you were talking, I'm like, yo, you know, when you talked about really educating them on the messages, I'm like, that's something all these young folks need.
Absolutely.
Women, men, like there is so much trash. And I don't,
It is.
I mean, it's always been there, right? I think
It
about
is.
what we grew up on and I get it, but it's like there's a lot of that kind of gun mentality and things like that that are just embedded in so much messaging. So I really appreciate it. And I'm telling you, this is a space, Eddie, anytime you have a program, you want to come every quarter to tell us about the event you have going on, anything that you want to share, just know that the Day with Trey is here to help be a conduit to sharing that insight and information. And so, again, the event is coming up March 25th, you said, right? It's going to be at Dale Ridge Community Center?
It is.
Okay.
1 to 4. We got some youth that's going to be hosting the event. You know, we got some special guest speakers all throughout the community. You know, we got some musical performances from those same young folks. You know, we have some individuals calling in from prison to give messages on the importance of leadership. You know, free food, free gift bags. So it's going to be an overall great event, bringing joy to the community. Absolutely.
Amazing. Eddie, thank you so much for your work and
Thank
for
you.
coming to share. I know we could dive in. So I'm just
Right,
know
right.
I'm on board. I'm a partner. Whatever you need from me, you got it.
I appreciate that. I will be in contact.
Yeah, absolutely.